some wild and crazy results in week 10 of the college football season in the Big 12, some upsets that will impact the Big 12 conference race. In this episode, which is brought to you by BetUS Online Sportsbook and Casino and Katz, Cantor, Stone Street, and Buckner Attorneys at Law, I'm going to give you my Week 11 Big 12 tier rankings. And we'll explain my reasoning behind each ranking, and we'll do that right after this word from one of those sponsors.
Since 1931, the attorneys at Katz, Cantor, Stone Street, and Buckner have been the voice for victims who have suffered serious injury or death. They have a fierce passion for truth and justice and a sincere compassion for those who have been wronged by others. Whether you have been in a car accident, are fighting with an insurance company, or you or a loved one has suffered serious injury or death due to medical negligence, we will ensure your voice is heard loud and clear. Katz, Cantor, Stone Street, and Buckner will ensure there is justice for all West Virginians because we are your lawyer, your voice. Visit us at yourlawyeryourvoice.com.
What is up? Welcome into another episode of Couz's Corner. Come on in, make yourself comfortable, belly yourself up to the bar, and let me pour you out this shot of top shelf college football content. That's what I do here. Top shelf news and analysis on the Big 12, West Virginia, and conference realignment. Let's dig right into the Week 11 tier rankings. For those of you who might be new here, the way I do this, I will start off with the rankings I gave you on the previous episode so that you see where the teams start and where I put them. Now, I did not do one of these shows last week. I just did not have time. So this is based on the episode I did after week 8 games. Okay. So let's go ahead and start off. And I'm going to do this game by game. The first Big 12 game of the week was Texas Tech and Iowa State. Now, Texas Tech and Iowa State played in Ames. Texas Tech wins the game 23-22. That moves Texas Tech to 6-3 on the year, 4-2 in conference play, and they're right in the heat of the conference race, one of 5 teams with 2 losses. Texas Tech just found a way to win the football game. And actually, they were outgained by Iowa State in most categories. Iowa State was able to get yards. They just were not able to get points in this game. Taj Brooks did his thing, carried the ball 25 times for 122 yards and a touchdown. Baron Morton threw it 40 times, completed 21 of them for 237 yards and 2 touchdowns, but he did throw 2 interceptions. On the flip side of that, Texas Tech also turned Iowa State over 2 times to even that category up, which helped them win the game. Wide receiver Josh Kelly had 8 catches for the Red Raiders for 127 yards and 2 touchdowns. And then the star on the defensive side was linebacker Jacob Rodriguez, who had 13 tackles, 2 sacks, and 2.5 TFLs in the win for the Red Raiders. So the Red Raiders right now have them as a contender. I'm going to leave them as a contender following that win. Not quite ready to put them up in top shelf right now. As far as Iowa State goes, they were in top shelf in week 1. They lose the game, obviously 23-22 in the final seconds, drops them to 7-1-4-1, 432 yards of total offense, and still lose the game. 34 minutes and 13 seconds, time of possession, you still lose the game. Just could not make plays when you needed to. Iowa State, they are dealing with injuries at Iowa State, so you know, probably fair to take that into consideration. But at this time of year, almost every team's dealing with injuries. So, you know, there's no excuses. And as a West Virginia fan, you know, Neil Brown talks about injuries a lot, and we get frustrated about that. So, you know, no excuses. Everybody's dealing with injuries, some worse than others. But, you know, Iowa State, they're still one of only 3 teams that have lost 1 game or less in the league. So I think it's fair right now to leave them as a top shelf team after only 1 loss. Now, the next game on the slate was the Kansas State Wildcats at Houston. This is one of the major upsets, or the major upset, I should say, that took place. Yes, Texas Tech over Iowa State was an upset, but this one was even bigger because Houston was one of the bottom teams. As you see, I had them in the well 2 weeks ago. Kansas State loses the game 24-19. They're now 7-2 overall, 4-2 in league play, also losing to BYU earlier in the year. K-State, Avery Johnson threw 2 picks in the game. That really hurt. Houston held them to 89 yards rushing and 2.6 yards per carry. So that Houston defense really stepped up big. Avery Johnson was 23 of 39 for 238 yards and a touchdown. In addition to the 2 picks I mentioned, DJ Giddens carries the ball 17 times for only 50 yards. This is one of the top running backs, not only in the Big 12, but arguably in the country. Only carried it for 50 yards. Kansas State came into this game on a 4-game winning streak. That was obviously snapped. I've got to move Kansas State off the top shelf and put them down now as a contender because they now have 2 losses in the conference. Now let's go to Houston. Let's talk about them. Where will I put them for this week after that big win? They are now 4-5 on the year, 3-3 in Big 12 play. They started using a new quarterback for Donovan Smith. Zion Chris was 11 for 11 passing the football. Very efficient. Only 103 yards, but he did what he needed to do. He also picked up 75 yards rushing on the ground on 22 carries, and he had a passing touchdown. Houston wins the game with only 232 yards of total offense. Defense wins the day for Houston. They have now won 3 conference games. So I have got to move them up all the way. I'm passing up the bottom shelf and putting them as a pretender in this conference. Much better play from Houston the last couple of weeks. Now, let's move to the Arizona State-Oklahoma State game. Arizona State wins the game in Stillwater, 42-21, moves them now to 6-2 on the season, 3-2 in Big 12 play. Again, one of the 5 teams with 2 losses. Defense held Oklahoma State to 3 for 11 on third down. Defense also held Oklahoma State to only 84 yards rushing and 186 yards passing for only 270 total yards. So the Arizona State defense stepped up. Offensively, Arizona State held the ball for 38 minutes and 31 seconds. In a 60-minute game, they held it for almost 40 minutes. That's unbelievable. Arizona State put up 529 total yards of offense. Sam Levitt threw 29 times, completed 20 passes for 304 yards and 3 touchdowns. Cam Scattaboo, what a performance. Carries it 23 times, 153 yards and a touchdown. And oh, by the way, also led the team in receiving yards with 121 of those. Caught the ball 4 times, 2 touchdowns. So big plays from Cam Scattaboo, huge performance by him. Arizona State, again, 3-2 in conference play, 6-2 overall. In the conversation, I have to leave them as in the conversation because they're 3-2 in league play. I guess it would be fair to move them up to a contender, but I don't know. I'm leaving them in the conversation for now. I still not think they're good enough to be a contender in the league. Let's move now to Oklahoma State. They're 3-6 after that loss overall, 0-6 in Big 12 play, the only winless team. I'm leaving them in the well, obviously. Alan Bowman was 17 of 30, 175 yards and a touchdown, also threw a pick. Ollie Gordon carries it 11 times for only 25 yards. Oklahoma State remains in the well, the only winless team in the conference. Also, right now, I want to remind you that if you want to place a bet on any Big 12 games this week and you're looking for a new sports book, look no further than our friends over at BetUS Online. Go to BetUS's website, and on your first deposit, you will get 150% sign-up bonus if you use promo code YouTube150. Again, YouTube150 at checkout gives you 150% sign-up bonus on your first deposit, 125% bonus on your next 2 deposits, up to $2,000. Please make sure you play responsibly, and you remember you must be 18 years of age or older to play. Next, we go to Arizona versus UCF. Arizona loses. I'm starting with Arizona first, starting with the visiting team first here. Arizona loses the game 56-12. Absolutely obliterated by UCF. They're 3-6 now overall, only 1-5 in league play. Offense only able to muster 261 total yards of offense. 256 of those were through the air, so only 5 on the ground. Struggle to run the football, have pretty much all year. They also committed 10 penalties for 100 yards. The defense gave up 602 yards of offense. Noah Fafita did have a decent day, 24 of 33 for 256 yards and 2 touchdowns. Teteroy McMillan, 6 catches, 84 yards and a touchdown. But Chris Hunter, the receiver, 7 catches for 102 yards. Great performance by defensive back Jack Luttrell on the day, who had 14 total tackles. But, man, so a few good individual performances. But overall, as a team, Arizona they can't stop anybody, and they cannot run the football. So that's a recipe for disaster. I'm moving Arizona down to the well, guys. Have to. They're just playing horrible football right now. I don't know where else you could put them. Now, for you, as far as UCF goes, they moved to 4-5 overall, 2-4 in Big 12 play. A balanced attack, 602 total yards, 294 of those were in the air, 308 on the ground, with R.J. Harvey picking up 184 of those on 22 carries, also had 3 tutties. Quarterback Dylan Rizik, I hope I pronounced his name right, 20 for 25, 294 yards, 3 touchdowns. Strong performance by the young man, Dylan Rizik. It looks like UCF may have found their quarterback. We will see. Wide receiver Jacoby Jones catches 5 balls for 206 yards and a touchdown. And then that UCF defense stepped up big, had 4 sacks on the day, with 2 of those being by defensive end Malachi Lawrence. UCF, look, they still only have 2 wins in league play. I'm still leaving them on the bottom shelf. I still think you know what? I need to move them up to a pretender, I guess. That was a huge win. Putting up 56 points is impressive on anyone, so I'm moving them up to a pretender. All right. TCU at Baylor, the final game of the day. TCU, there are some buys, though. I will touch on the teams with buys after we get through here. TCU at Baylor. TCU loses the game 37-34 or 34-37 in this case. Drops down to 5-4 overall, 3-3 in Big 12 play. The defense gave up 499 yards of offense, and Baylor was able to go 8 of 15 on third down. So TCU just was not able to, TCU's defense wasn't able to get off the field. Their offense did put up 444 total yards, but only rushed for 105. So TCU continues to struggle to run the football. Only had 3.3 yards per carry. Josh Hoover, the quarterback, threw 34 times, completed 25 of those for 333 yards and 2 touchdowns. Savion Williams, the receiver / running back who had some success on the ground in previous games, was only able to muster 57 yards in this one on 8 carries. Receiver Jack Beck did have 2 touchdown catches for the Horned Frogs. Now, as far as the winning team, Baylor has started off the season weak. Oh, let's rate TCU. TCU loses the game. They're 3-3 in league play. I'm going to leave them as a pretender right now. I think they're where they need to be. All right. Baylor, they win the game. They're 3-3 in Big 12 play now, 5-4 overall. Started off as one of the worst teams in the conference. They have now started winning some games. Offense, again, put up 499 yards, 242 passing, 257 rushing, so very balanced with offensive coordinator Jake Spavital. Sawyer Robertson was 19 of 34 for 242 yards and 242 yards rushing. No touchdown passes, but also no interception, so he managed the game well. All of Baylor's touchdowns were on the ground. 4 of those by Bryson Washington, who carried the ball 26 times for 196 yards. And then Dawson Pendergrass added a touchdown as well. And then former West Virginia Mountaineer Keaton Thomas at the linebacker spot for Baylor had 11 tackles to lead the defense. Just an overall solid performance by Baylor. Another good win for them. I'm moving them up. The way they're playing right now, I'm moving them up to end the conversation. Well, they're not really in the conversation because they have more than 2 losses, so I'll move them to a pretender. I don't think any team with 2 losses or more than 2 losses rather deserves to be in the conversation. So I'm moving them down to pretender because keep in mind this is for a Big 12 championship. Now, the teams who had a bye, the BYU Cougars, they're still the only undefeated team in the conference. I'm leaving them as a top shelf team in this conference. Cincinnati Bearcats, they had a bye. Right now, they sit 3-2 on the seat, or 3-2 in Big 12 play, 5-3 overall. They still only have 2 losses, so I have to leave them. I think I'm going to drop. Let me see. Where do I want to put them? I think I'm going to drop them down to end the conversation. I still don't know that they're good enough on the defensive side of the ball to be a contender. So I'm putting them in, and I still see them dropping another game going forward. So I'm going to put them in the conversation right there with Arizona State. Colorado Buffaloes, still only 1 loss on the season in Big 12 play, 2 losses overall. Actually got rated 20th in the most recent college football playoff standings. So I'm going to move Colorado up with Iowa State and BYU as a top shelf team, as much as that pains me to do, because I have talked some smack about Colorado. I did not predict them to be a good team this year, but here they are. 1 loss in conference play, 2 overall, as a top shelf Big 12 team in my rankings. Next, I guess I have to jump down to my West Virginia Mountaineers. They were on a bye this week as well. They sit at 3-2 in the Big 12, 4-4 overall. The teams they've beaten are some of the worst teams in the league. They've beaten Oklahoma State, Kansas, and Arizona. But I guess technically they are still in the conversation. They still only have 2 losses, so I'll move them up to end the conversation for now. Even though I don't believe that they're going to play in Arlington or have much of a chance to. Next, I guess we'll go to the Utah Utes, who are also on a bye week. They still have only one win in conference play, so I'm leaving them as a bottom shelf team. As a matter of fact, I mean, I guess I could put them as a well team, but for now, I'll just leave them bottom shelf. Not a lot of separation really between well and bottom shelf anyway. Technically, I got to probably only have 5 categories in this instead of 6. But anyway, and then as far as Kansas goes, they might be the best 2-win team in college football. They continue to lose close games each and every week. So I'm going to leave them as bottom shelf as well. So to summarize, I have Iowa State, BYU, and Colorado as the top shelf teams in the Big 12 because they either have 1 loss or less in league play. I have Kansas State and Texas Tech as contenders because they only have 2 losses. And even though Kansas State just lost, I still think they're a good football team. Texas Tech on an upward trajectory, have them as a contender. Have Arizona State, Cincinnati, and West Virginia all in the conversation for a Big 12 championship. All only have 2 losses in league play, but I'm not sold on them right now as far as contenders for the Big 12 championship. I have TCU, Houston, UCF, and BYU as pretenders in the league. TCU, Houston, and Baylor all have 3 losses in conference play. UCF has 4, but they just put up 56 points on their opponent in Oklahoma State, so I'll move them up a notch to a pretender for that simple reason. Maybe the change in quarterbacks has them now on an upward trajectory. But they're still not in the conversation because they have more than 2 losses in the league. Bottom shelf, Utah and Kansas. And then, Oklahoma State, who has yet to win a Big 12 game. And then Arizona, who just looks absolutely horrendous. Just gave up 56. I said UCF over Oklahoma State. It was actually UCF putting up 56 on Arizona. I apologize for that error. But Arizona, because of that, I moved them down from bottom shelf to the well. So that being said, that is my Big 12 tier rankings for this week. I want to hear your thoughts. Where did I get it right? Where did I get it wrong? With that being said, I also want to give a shout out to my VIP channel members of this episode. Thank them for their support, but their names are Lonnie Johansson, Daniel Gigax, WVU Earl, TS, and S. Michael DeHart. Thank you all for your support of the channel. If you want to become a paid VIP member here on the channel, hit the join button below or hit it over or go to my channel homepage rather. And right beside my profile photo, there is a join button. It explains the 2 levels that I have, the pub level and the club level. There are perks that go along with each one. Both include shout outs in videos, and both include first dibs on getting your comments read during live streams. And I also do occasionally, for my club level members, I will do early releases occasionally, and also will occasionally do a members only video. All that's being said, once again, shout out to my sponsors, BetUS Online Sportsbook and Katz, Cantor, Stone Street, and Buckner Attorneys at Law. If you're looking for a personal injury or medical malpractice attorney in the state of West Virginia or Virginia, that's who you need to call. Go to yourlawyeryourvoice.com. Thanks to them for helping me keep the lights on. Thanks to you for helping me keep the lights on. Be sure to check out this video here in the top corner of your screen. I hope the rest of your day is top shelf, and cue Country Roads.